Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very unique little knife right here. This is the Rockstead Higo. Rockstead is a Japanese company that, they exist on the very, very highest ends of production knife making. And I know what you're thinking, Nick, why'd you say this is so unique? I mean, it's pretty, but what's up with that? Well, the thing is, what Rockstead does best are crazy polish jobs, and so let's go ahead and show that off. This blade here is a DLC-coated blade, except it's a little different than most DLC-coated blades. Check out the polishing on this. I mean, Siri, oh, damn it, I forgot to change after work again. Well, whatever. This is a very, very, very interesting little blade. You can see my phone with the little charging cable. Absolutely crazy, the polish job on this blade. And so, that's the kind of thing that Rockstead does, and that's what puts them at this highest of high-end sort of production things. And I want to thank very much my buddy Jim for sending this knife along for me to check out, because these are not cheap, and, well, it's very generous of him. Let's do a size comparison. This right here is your Ontario rat number 1. Right here is your rat number 2. Of course, it's my channel, so we gotta have a Spyderco Delica in there. Speaking of insanely high-end production knives, let's put a Chris Reeves Shabazz 21 large in there, and anything else here? Nothing offhand. So there you go. That's your Rockstead Higo. Then finally, I want to highlight the fact that there is no disassembly video for this knife. This is actually one of few Rocksteads that you can disassemble. See, it's using Torx here, but the thing is, these Torx screws are Loctited down. They are a DLC, some sort of a smoked coating on them, which will scratch up pretty straightforwardly. The knife is currently running beautifully, and it's $900 with a not-so-stellar warranty, so I didn't want to push it. So there's no disassembly here. Sorry about that, but that's life. So let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this Rockstead little Higo guy right here. Okay, so first off, you can even see my hand as I reach up to turn on the camera here. First off, this knife has a very nice lockup. You can see that it locks up at right about 50% here, and disengaging the lock bar is very, very straightforward. You can see here, you just slide it over, and the amount of lock bar tension is just beautifully dialed in. This is just a nicely done lockup on there. So, yeah, that's kind of a nice thing. Next thing I want to highlight is actually that this handle is a little different than most. This handle is actually made of aluminum, but it's specifically an alloy of aluminum called duralumin. And so the idea of an aluminum frame lock leaves me a little bit skeptical. But I actually talked to an engineer buddy of mine about the alloy used. He looked it up and did some basic maths with it, and he said that it shouldn't be a practical problem. That strength-wise, the duralumin is a very tough alloy, and he doesn't see a big issue on the frame lock side of things. So I'm inclined to trust an expert rather than a jackass. So there you go. The other thing I will highlight, though, is that there is, as you can see here, a lock bar insert here, which also serves as an over-travel stop, which is a beautiful, beautiful freaking thing. So there you go. Next thing. This guy has ambidextrous thumb studs, you can see, on this side and on this side. That can be a nice thing. It's worth noting that the clip itself isn't ambidextrous. It only mounts on the one side here, and it's a frame lock. So, but, that can be a nice thing for a lot of people, and there are a lot of righties who would still prefer to be able to open with the left side if they have those set of skills. So, there you go. Next thing, the fit and finish on this guy are very, very nicely done overall. I mean, take a look, seriously, at this sculpting on this handle. I mean, it's a little thing, but it's a really cool little thing. It's got just this beautiful set of contouring here. There's not even a hint of machining marks. It is beautifully done, and the handle catches the light in a nice way. And look at the lock bar cutout here. I mean, that's a really tiny, very, very thin lock bar cutout. The relief is entirely interior. We can see right here. I mean, overall, fit and finish on this knife are very, very nice. And if you look closely, there are a lot of nice little details to it. So that's good. Next thing, the construction is very simple. There are two screws here. There's the pivot screw and there's this back screw, and I guess the one that holds on the clip, but still. It's a simple thing, and it's done very, very, very freaking well. So that's good. Next thing, the knife is actually pretty lightweight. And part of it is because it is the aluminum alloy there. So we're coming in here at 3.7 ounces for a relatively largish blade. I mean, again, in terms of size, you're looking at the same blade length as your Shabazz, but you're coming in at a much lower overall weight. This guy's coming in at 4.5. So using the aluminum does actually win you something in the game of weight. So that's nice. And I will say that the balance is good despite that. The knife balance is right about where I'd want it to, which is very nice. Then finally on the good side, I got to highlight the smoothness of this knife. Now, this is sort of a hard thing to express to people, but this knife is not like a free dropper in the sense of a knife that's running on bearings. This is on phosphor bronze washes, but it is really, truly glassy smooth. This knife makes my large Shabazz right here feel very inconsistent and not terribly smooth. That takes something because the Shabazz has got an incredible smooth action too, so this knife is just overly smooth. It's incredible. I mean, I love, love, love the smoothness of this knife on washes. They've done an incredible job with that here. And so I got to give them major credit for that. So, for me at least, that's the good here, is that it is a very smooth action on phosphor bronze washes. It's lightweight. It's got simple construction. The fit and finish on it is great. The handle is made of aluminum, but engineering-wise, that's apparently just fine here. Studs are ambidextrous, and the lockup is very easy to disengage. So, there you go. Let's talk about what's great here. Look, the great thing about this knife is 100% this blade. The blade on this knife is just freaking incredible. I deeply, deeply love it. And for a couple of reasons. First off, this is the DLC-coated blade, and the DLC coating here is very clearly black, but it's also very clearly beautiful and shiny. This is the first DLC that I have just been in love with, and frankly, I've handled both the non-DLC and the DLC version. I kind of find this one a little more compelling, although both of them have got some incredible stuff going on. But anyways, this version in DLC is running a steel called YXR7. It's not very common in the knife world. It's a Hitachi steel. It's high hardness, but it's meant to be very tough at high hardness. And speaking of the hardness, that is the next exceptional thing about this blade. You're running at 67 HRC here, and that is a very, very hard blade. Hardness, of course, gives you additional resistance to wear and to scratching. Most knives run someplace in the 57, 58 range. Your very, very, hardcore knives might run at 62, 63. This is running at 67. Holy crap. And what that means is that you're going to take, basically this will hold its edge for a very, very long time, provided you're not abusing the knife particularly. And this knife does take one heck of an edge. It is scary sharp. And it will stay that way because they will sharpen this knife for free. You just need to pay shipping back to Japan. There's a big asterisk there. You need to be the original owner and you need to have bought it from an AD, but it's there. We'll come back to that one later. Rest yourself assured. But anyways, so that's incredible. And then finally, this polish is just great. This is the best polish I have ever seen on a knife, and frankly, it may be the best polish I have seen. There are beautiful polishes on watches and things like this, but this is a relatively low distortion polish. It's freaking incredible, and for them to have done that perfectly such that there are no visible defects to me, and I am a picky guy, across this big of a swath of the blade, the entire grind of this blade is beautifully polished to a uniform. It's incredible. And because the steel is so hard, it should be harder to scratch than most polishes out there in the world. So, it will scratch sooner or later, but the thing is, this is still damned impressive. And so, for me, that's what's great, is the blade with this incredible polish, this scary sharpness level, the 67 HRC hardness, and then the YXR7 steel. So that's the great. This blade is just incredible craftsmanship through and through. Let's talk about what's bad. Okay, so on the bad side, first off, I gotta say, there has been a fair amount of discussion online about scratching on this aluminum here. I've not experienced it personally with this knife, thank God, and, this hasn't been super extensively carried, but there's already snail trails here, and it is sort of a universal fact of aluminum knives, like look at the Benchmade 940 in the aluminum, etc. You will see scratches in this coating, and probably long before you see them in the blade. So that's something you do have to keep in mind. This is not immune from that, and with this black blade, it's going to be extra visible when it happens. So there you go. Next thing, the ergos on this knife, unfortunately for me, were not very good in a couple of ways. I felt like there wasn't really a way that this fit well in my hand. I can kind of put my hand here, but then the lock bar is pushing up into my finger. and I just feel like I'm far away from the action. If I choke forward kind of onto this jimping here, then it felt separately and differently wrong in my hand, and no matter how I have it, this clip being in this position is a very big hot spot. It's constantly kind of pressing into my hand here. I would much prefer to have the clip up here instead, both for carrying as well as for ergonomic purposes. This clip just, I don't think, is super well positioned. You can also see, by the way, that it is not canted at all, which makes this guy much more prominent in the pocket than it needs to be. So the ergonomics on this guy were just not great for me at all. Next thing, I gotta say, this is a knife that can't really afford to have anything be underdone, and the fasteners, to me, do feel underdone. I mean, take a look at them there. I mean, they're not bad, they're not terrible, but this is a $900 knife, and the rest of the knife is so damned well finished that to have the fastener just sort of be this blasé kind of silver kind of black thing, and you can even see where they potted off the fastener here, doesn't impress me so much. I'd like to see that done a little bit more for what they're doing here. Next issue for me, and is that the price is really high. Speaking of what they're doing here, I mean, this is a $900 production knife. That's pretty I'm not going to say it's insane, but it's pretty intense. I mean, this is a small batch production knife and does have just incredible handiwork. Oh my God, I mean, this blade, holy crap, okay, you can justify some cash that way. But the thing is, that's a lot of money. You could buy 3 really incredible knives for the price of one of these guys. This is one of the most expensive production knives in the world. And, you know, they've earned a good chunk of that, but still, that's going to be bad for a lot of people, and it's going to take it off the table for a lot of people, too. Then finally, my biggest issue with this knife, my biggest non-ugly issue is the slipperiness of this finish. You can see here, it's got this beautiful aluminum sort of pattern here that almost seems to move around, by the way, depending on the shadow. Neat, but it's got very, very little texturing to it at all. I often joke about, oh, this isn't a knife if you work in the Vaseline factory, but the thing is, this knife is slippery enough that it's not the knife if you work in the boring office. It's not the knife to carry, really. Because you can see this texture only prevents you from sliding in this direction. It doesn't do a damn thing for this, and so in the hand, this moves around very readily. The clip is really the only thing giving you any texture at all, and then pulling it out of the pocket actually turned out to be kind of scary, because the only place you can grab is this surface right here, and that's not super great. So I found myself losing kind of having it slippery, my fingers sliding off of it, especially with, hot weather and sweaty hands and sunblock, things like that. This is really kind of hard to get out of the pants, and when I did, I felt like I didn't have a great purchase on it, and given that this blade is so damn hard that I really don't want to drop it, that was a scary experience. And so this is a knife that is terribly, terribly slippery, and it's borderline bad. Actually, no, it is flat out bad. So, that's the bad here is it's very slippery in the hand. It is the most expensive, one of the most expensive production knives out there in the world. The ergos aren't great, and the aluminum is probably going to scratch, and the fasteners on this guy just don't feel that well done. Let's talk about the ugly, because sadly, there's ugly. Okay. 2 ugly issues here. First off is the clip here, this made in Japan. This is so incredibly cheap looking because it's just not well done. You can see here that the letters are engraved in different depths depending. You can see that the letters don't actually align with the flattest part of the clip here. You can see that it's just not super well. It feels like on this $900 knife they realized, oh crap, we're out of clips, and just ran next door to the factory that makes gas station knives and grabbed a bunch of those. How do they think that this is okay? I'm sorry, maybe I'm just being a snob here, but you can put made in Japan in so many places on this knife, and you did it there, and you did it that poorly? No! Bad, Rockstead, bad. And speaking of bad, Rockstead, bad. If you are charging $900 for a production knife, you had better have the world's greatest warranty. Because holy crap, is that already expensive. Your warranty should be such that if the knife gets dull, we'll sharpen it for free, we'll send it back to you. If your knife breaks, we will fix it, we will send it. In fact, we will have Christina Hendricks hand deliver it to your freaking house for this warranty policy. But instead, their warranty is really freaking ugly because although they'll sharpen knives for free if you pay the shipping both ways to Japan, if you buy the knife on the secondary market, you are not entitled to their warranty coverage. This is straight from their freaking website. So this means that if you buy one of these knives or any Rockstead secondhand, they will not reshop or repair it. They will charge you some amount of money to do that. They don't even tell you how much that is. And the same thing applies if you buy it from a dealer that isn't an authorized Rockstead dealer. So even if you buy it from your local store because they happen to get one in wholesale, nope, no warranty. Sorry, guys, nope. This is just so freaking ugly. I mean, let me summarize. You would get a better warranty policy in terms of sharpening and repair on a $30 Little Kershaw special here than you do on a $900 Rockstead. That is seriously, seriously ugly, and it's really off-putting for one of the most expensive production knives in the world. Guys, you are behind the curve of cheap knife making. No, bad. So that's the ugly here, is that the warranty is just kind of a screw you, at least if you're not paying full retail from an AD. And this clip, really, guys? Ugh. So anyways, that's the ugly to me, and let's go into the final conclusions here. Ugh. Look, this is without a doubt a great example of knife making. The pivot is very, very smooth. It's very nicely made, and the freaking blade is just incredible. Let's be real here. They've done many things that are very hard to do here, and they're doing them by and large very well. It's not perfect, unfortunately, with the clip being comically underdone and the fasteners being so-so, and then a warranty that is bested by a $30 Kershaw any day of the week. I mean, that's a little weak, but aside from those issues, this knife is very, very well done, and it's kind of chicken soup for the knife guy's soul, feeling the smoothness of this pivot, looking at the polish here. I mean, this does feel great to handle. It's a fun knife to fondle. That said, it's not a knife I particularly enjoyed carrying as a functional tool, because it's a little big for the blade length. It's very, very, very slick in the hand. I didn't feel like I wanted to manipulate this much because of it. The ergos didn't work so well, and honestly, I was a little afraid I would scratch this finish. And given that it's a loader and I don't know if it's eligible for sharpening and polishing, given the whole warranty issue, I just didn't want to play with it that much. I mean, I carried it enough to know that it could be a practical everyday carry knife. I mean, it does cut things very nicely, but I think that using this as an EDC would kind of be missing the point, because it's not an EDC knife at all. Instead, the purpose of this knife is to show off, to keep around as pure manufacturing porn. This knife exists to say, hey, look what we can do as a species, and that's really cool. It shows the incredible production and finishing work. In a sense, that what the knife is right now on the table is less important than the knowledge of what it took to get it to this state. That's what's impressive here. So the joy is in the examination. It's to watch the light playing on the reflections here, or to enjoy the smoothness of the pivot or the sharpness of the edge. I mean, any of those things bring a lot of joy, but the joy is from fondling this knife, and I think that's what this knife is meant for. You pull it out of the safe every so often to fondle it, or to show an enthusiastic buddy, to bring to a knife guy meetup, just to get some oohs and some ahs. But after you're done, you put it back in the safe and you carry something a little bit more practical. And so only you are going to know whether this knife makes sense in your life, if that experience is worth the $900 that this is going to take. For me, it absolutely is not. I mean, I love knowing that this knife exists, and I have gotten joy out of handling it 100%. Thanks, Jim, for sending it along. But the thing is, I don't buy Safe Queens, and this isn't practical enough that it would get Pocketknife. The slipperiness of it, if nothing else, would be a big problem for me. But the thing is, if you are after a Safe Queen, you are after a unique and excellent piece for your collection, and you're willing to pay the full bill retail from an AD in order to get a warranty worth a damn, then this knife is really, really nice. I mean, if you're willing to go there and you're after what this is doing, well, there's no disputing that this is one heck of a knife. So there you go. That's your Rockstead Higo. There he goes, I suppose. But anyways, I hope this has been interesting, that if you get it, you'll love it, and that you'll treasure the process of just enjoying this knife on the table for years and years and years to come. Have a good one. Bye now.